What is up, y'all? Welcome back to The Black Experience. Welcome back, y'all, to Season 5, another episode in Season 5. For all my returning viewers, listeners out there, thank you so much. I love y'all. Without you guys, I would not be here today with this podcast. Almost 2 years. This upcoming October will be 2 years in the making of the start of the Black Experience podcast. So I never thought I'd make it to 2 years. You know, I thought this was going to be a month-long, year-long project, but now here we are. But thank you guys so much for all new viewers and listeners that are watching. Welcome to the Black Experience. Welcome to being part of the mission. We are in Season 5, y'all, and today I've got a very special person. I've got a very special guest here on the podcast, as usual. He is part of the larger Western Washington University community. He's a good friend of mine that I met in the Black Student Union space, and he's got a lot to share and a lot to talk about. So let's put our hands together and let's bring up my good friend, Mr. Elijah.
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Just living my life. You know, there's a, what's her name? Oh, she's like, living my life like it's gold and living my life like it's
Is
gold.
that a song?
Yeah, it is a song. It's by, I think, Jasmine Sullivan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay.
My mom loves that song. I love that song, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, before we even get started, today is a Monday.
Yeah.
People hate Mondays. How do you feel about Mondays?
Beginning of another journey. That's corny. I get it. Like, but seriously, like, with anything, right? Like, you go into the gym, right? Like, I don't want to be here. But you got to start your set, right? I want to, you want to go to school, graduate, and you want to be, a software developer or something. Guess what? You got to go in and start your test, your examinations, right? Every big thing has a start, right? Even if you got to repeat it, you got to start. So that's how I look at Mondays. It's just a start of what could be something great, right? That's the first thing I try to come at it with first is this could be the start of something great.
That's a really good mindset, man. That's a really good mindset.
It's not always like that, but
Yeah, it's not always easy, especially waking up on that Monday morning. Man, I remember there was one quarter, fall of 22, where I had 4, sometimes 5, 8 a.m.s for one whole quarter. And man, that Mondays would be the toughest day just because you're coming back from the weekend, waking up, and you don't have that momentum built yet, but it would be a dread. But once you're up and you're going, though, you're going, and that momentum is there to stick. So it's a good mindset to have. But yeah, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad we're finally doing this. I know we were mentioning that before.
I like, it was becoming that thing where I was turning. It's like when you're about to like date someone, you're like, oh damn, like we're gonna have to reschedule. It was like that thing.
Yeah.
I'm happy we're able to do this. Again, my apologies, man.
No, you're all good, man.
Happy we're here now.
It was good, man. You're in front of the camera and the viewers see you, and we're gonna make this happen. So, yeah. Well, Elijah, man, let's get it going, man. If you want to start with telling us a little bit about your background, a little bit, and tell the viewers kind of where you come from and what growing up looked like for you.
Yeah. So my name is Elijah Semakula. My family is from Uganda. They came over here early mid-90s, came to Miami first. Not Miami, excuse me. They came to this town called, I think it was like Fort Myers. That's where I was born. But I have a lot of family that's scattered all over, so that's why I get locations mixed up. But they decided to come out of all the cities, right, whether it be like New York or like San Francisco. They said Seattle. I don't know what exactly drew them to Seattle. That's the thing about I guess any any immigrant story, you're just kind of like, why here, right? Like my mom told me like years ago, because there's not that many Ugandans like actually like in the country. I think you could fit like, I'm not even trying to be funny, like you could fit every single like Ugandan person in like one of the larger like football like stadiums, like college football stadiums in this country. We still wouldn't fill it up. There's not that many of us.
Wow. So
I asked my mom, I was like, so like, all my like Ethiopian homies, some like all like the people from like East Africa, I'm like, they got really big communities, and that's really dope. So I'm like, Mom, like, where we at? And she's like, Boston. And I'm like, Boston, Massachusetts? She's like, yeah. And everything I know about Boston and like, their history with race relations, I'm like, okay, all right, but
why the heck are we here?
Why are we here? I asked myself, so I make a joke out of it, right? With like a lot of things I do, where it's like, if like I go to a certain place like Eastern Washington, I've only been there like like a couple times, and I was like, damn, I'm probably the first like Ugandan here, and
Yeah,
I
probably.
probably was like, you know, there's not that many of us, but
Real.
yeah, you know, but also I'm very prideful of that in a way where it's like, you know, I could serve as like a beacon, hopefully, to like other Ugandan kids or people looking to immigrate here, just be like a helping hand, because I see it a lot, right, with other cultures, right? You can, if you are like, in this sense, like if you're an Ethiopian person, and you see like an elder, like an older lady, and she's like struggling to hold her bags, you can communicate with her, and it's like, wow, that's great, that's community. So I aspire to do that for, honestly, like any Ugandan person, because I know there's not that many of us, and community is everything, you know.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you talk about Uganda because on my mom's side, my mom's older brother, him and his family actually went to, they moved their family to Uganda.
Oh, we're at
Like in the capital, Kampala.
Kampala. Ah,
In
yeah,
Kampala,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
And so
okay.
they lived there for a little bit, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. They loved the Ugandan people. In fact, one of my friends, Jeffrey, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. But he was on the podcast, and he's from Uganda as well.
Small world,
It's
small
small world,
world.
man.
Yeah,
Small world. So
it's like, I don't know. God's a funny comedian, bro. Because I'm always like, man, I don't meet a lot of Ugandans, and then like I hear stories like, oh yeah, dude, I had a friend on the podcast that's Ugandan. And I'm like, where are these people at, man? Like,
yeah,
you know. So that's just funny.
that's the way life is, man. It's like you just don't know how it happens, but that connection is made, and you're like, okay, boom, here we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, Elijah, that is super cool. How did the journey come from coming here in Seattle, and first in the U.S., Seattle, and then all the way here to Bellingham? I guess what was the why behind coming to Western? Why Western, and why Bellingham in general?
Yeah. So like a lot of like younger people when they're looking at schools, right? It's either I hate to like operate off of extremes, but for a lot of, you know, like younger people, it is that you are operating off of extremes a lot of times, where you have one side where it's like, man, look, this school has a lot of prestige, and it has like these majors I'm interested in, and the social life is cool, and my parents can afford it. That's it. On the other hand, you have people that are like like painstakingly, right, like looking into these schools way earlier. I remember one time my high school, they sent out these letters, and they're like, you should attend this kind of like seminar for how to get your kids into these like elite schools. And this was in my sophomore year of high school. So we'd all go, we all go into this like room in this building in Bellevue, and basically you have these people saying like, look, if you join this program, you'll get these access to these tutors, people who review your resumes, your stats, everything, and try to get you into these really, you know, elite schools. And at the time, I'm like 16. I'm like, okay, like, okay, sure, yeah, this is for me. But then, like, you know, again, like a lot of things, right? When you're trying to like move up the ladder in life, you know, it's not cheap, right? So we're looking at these like packages of like what this program would be, and my mom is looking at me, and she's like, no. So then I had to kind of shift towards like, still on that, like, okay, like I got to really be deliberate about this. So when I was 16, I knew a couple of things. I was like, I do want to go to college,
Right.
do not know what for,
Yeah.
but I want to present myself like, you know, like most things in life, like the best options, right? And if this doesn't work, I can fall back on this and so forth and so forth. And I started looking, and I was looking at places like SU, UW, like 99% of the people who live in Seattle,
Yeah.
Wazoo, and et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of got onto the idea of like, okay, maybe the idea of being like a doctor is something I could see myself as, or if it's not being a doctor, maybe being PT or OT, something, you know, pretty much anything in the health
Sure.
field. I was just like, you know, a lot of my family's in it. My aunt, she just recently became a doctor, so you know,
shout out to her.
yeah, shouts out.
That's not
to
easy, man.
Is
That, yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, you know. My mom herself is a nurse. a lot of nurses, doctors, you know, like the medicine field is just like ingrained in my family. So I'm like, okay, this is a way for me to kind of continue this, and I want to do so. Looking at schools, and thought about Bellingham. Bellingham wasn't my first choice, which I'm sure like a lot of people that go to the school can probably say the same. But you know, go Vikes, I guess. No, seriously.
Right.
But no. But I then just thought about my needs as a student, right? Because yeah, like prestige is cool. Going to Husky games is cool, right? Going, you know, to University District and like getting hammered with your friends is cool. But at the end of the day, you're here to advance in your profession one day, right? And you might have to go to grad school to get to that profession. You know, there's a lot of things that it might take to get there. And what's the best step one for me, right? And I knew when I was looking at schools, I was like, I want to have a great rapport, number one, with my professors, because these are the people that are going to be handing out these recommendations. These are the people that I'm basically going to, you know, school is, it's corny, but it is like a job, right? And you want to have a good rapport with your bosses.
Absolutely.
So that whenever the day comes, you might want to look towards another job, maybe even another profession. You don't want to leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth, or you want to, or if anything, you just want to leave an impression, that being a good impression. So I knew it would be really difficult if I went off to like UW and I'm like in these halls with like hundreds of kids. And it's not that I'm not competitive. It's just like, you know, you've seen it, man. Like at the end of class, you got a line that stretches all the way out to the, you know, to the hallway. You know, do you know of any like research opportunities? Can I set up office hours with you on this date? Or it becomes that. And I was like, okay, I it's more of an inconvenience than like a good thing to, you know. It's at that point where I'm like, prestige is not worth that.
Right.
So I landed on Bellingham. I landed on Western, and I landed on doing kinesiology, which is my major, because not only is it, again, like, hey, prestigious, we're a top 20 program in the nation, which is really impressive considering how small our school is, but that just, you know, is a testament to how hard our professors work and how hard me and my classmates work. And I was like, cool, like I'm basically coming into these high school size like classrooms. I see my professors every single day. It's very communal. I'm walking around my department building where all of our classes are at, which I'm not sure if it's the same for maybe you or like other departments, because I'm not in them. But yeah, we can just have everything that we need to do, whether it be research, in one spot. You're doing testing in one spot. Classes, obviously, in one spot. You need to get office hours. It's in one spot. Some people don't have, which again, at a small school, that is kind of a luxury. Some people have to dart from wherever their classes are to this random building to even see their professor.
It's like from one end of campus to the other.
Makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
I'm very blessed that I can just get out of class, walk upstairs, and it's like, oh, hey, Professor June, like I heard you're doing research or X, Y, and Z. So it's great to just be able to pop my head in and say like, hey, you know, what can I help you with? What can you help me with? And yeah, I'm very, very thankful for that.
Absolutely. And I do relate to you on that part of once you get in your major, and I did engineering, there is UW was my first choice, and Western was not even in the picture. In fact, I didn't even know Bellingham existed.
Dude, me neither.
Until I did research on it. But yeah, there's no regrets though, because the fact that I went to a school that's 16,000 students compared to 50,000, and that personal connection you have with your professor, office hours, like I think the worst we've had office hours was there was like 3 students out the door, and then we just moved to a classroom, and then we all got help. But there is that element of my professor knows me, my needs specifically in the way I learn, that you can't necessarily find if all your classes are like 400, 500, students.
Yeah. And it also just kind of adds to like, I guess like, it just proves like how sincere they are in their pursuit to teach, because like I'm being, again, like obviously I have to be taught by them, but I'm being taught by world-class doctors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are people who could easily go to any school in the country, get paid more money than like they know what to do with, to teach the exact same thing to kids who more than likely have been, studying all the stuff I've been studying, but like independently for years, right? People who are so dedicated that it's crazy, but they choose to be, lo and behold, in Bellingham of all places, right? So again, very thankful to them, and it's just, again, like I have to say, like I have this one professor. His name is Dr. San Juan, Dr. June San Juan. He came. He started off in Manila, where he got his bachelor's. Went off to, I believe, California University, if I'm not mistaken, University of California. Then went off to Oregon. So again, going on, and Oregon, for those who don't know, is like a powerhouse in everything, not only like sports medicine related, sports research, everything, right? Because like it has the Nike connection, right? So so like if you are someone that is very interested in like biomechanics, for instance, like Oregon is where it's at, right? You get access to all these amazing facilities, and he was a student there, and now he's here, and I'm getting game that I for, again, like we were talking about, like small school, I didn't know this place existed. I'm thinking, oh, okay, like what can I, admittedly, what kind of like information am I going to get, right? Like I'm not expecting what is essentially a world-class doctor giving me world-class information for damn near for free with the price I'm paying.
And the cost is a whole nother thing, man. Oh my goodness, bro.
You're-
Like I'm not gonna give out exactly how much loans I owe, but it's way less than if I went to a private university or even if I went to UW and stuff.
Yeah, like it's you're basically going here for free. Like, you know what I
absolutely.
mean? Like you're basically paying like the same. I'm basically paying I'm paying less than I would be if I was at a community college right now.
Wow. And this is a 4-year undergrad degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah. This is-
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to get into because there's the academic side of things, but then in terms of the clubs on campus, in terms of BSU, the Black Student Union, ACC, the African Caribbean Club, when you first stepped foot on Western, I guess, were your thoughts, was that exact, like one of the first things you were looking for? Like you stepped on campus, you were like, okay, I know what my classes are, I know my professors, now I need to find a space for me where I can find people that look like me? Or was that something that you ran into or you got introduced to later?
Yeah, man. I mean, community is like the first thing anybody thinks about when they go to a new place, right? Like I mentioned, again, like for Ugandans, right? Like, or just any immigrant, anybody that's immigrated to anywhere, right? Like, are we there? And for me, when I got here, I was very much like, okay, like I'm here, I'm settled, I have my eye on what I want to do. Business is first, right? Like I gotta take care of what I gotta take care in the classroom. Like I knew that was always first, but also like I gotta find my people. I gotta find my crowd or whatever. And yeah, like I was like kind of like looking around, like okay, like do black people even exist here? Like am I the only one? Because like dude, fall quarter, and then fall quarter, I was just kind of like okay, like looking at like re-looking up the demographics of the school, and I was like, damn, we're less than 2% of the student population.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, if I see someone, like they might be like number one out of like the few 200 under 200 people here. And it's funny because like again, less than 2%, I know like a large portion of those people. So it's just kind of funny, but yeah,
So
like
you probably know 1% of the two.
yeah, exactly,
Easy,
man.
right?
Yeah, like it's not even, but yeah, no, I initially, it was that. I was like, where do I find y'all? I went to Info Fair, and I was just like, people, if you follow me on Instagram, you follow me on social media, you might get the impression that like I'm far more like outgoing than I actually am. So like I go to info fair and I'm just like naturally, right? Like it's just been like ingrained into me from like my family, right? It's like you gotta be super polite. We're Ugandans are very bashful people, so I was very much like, hi, nice to meet you, like, so I hope I'm not like causing a scene or anything, but like, and I met a couple of people on the BSU board.
What year was your freshman year?
I'm a transfer.
Oh,
Yes.
and you transferred in fall of
Fall of 22.
Fall of 22. Okay.
So I came in and I'll get into that later. I was like, okay, like met these people, but I was like, I don't really know like where I didn't ask that question. I didn't ask like, where can I find y'all at? You know what I'm saying? Because like I feel like this might be the only time I ever see y'all ever.
Yeah.
So 2 quarters passed by after like solely focusing on like schoolwork to the point where I was like, it was kind of unhealthy, honestly, man. Like I would just go up to Haggard and just kind of like be like, okay, dude, like socializing is important, but like you have to remember why you came here. And it became like kind of like this torturous relationship with studying where I was like, I'm burnt out now and I have like no release valve. Okay.
Yeah.
Spring quarter rolls around. I go in, I decide, I build up the courage, admittedly, I'm like, okay, like I'm putting this off. Let me go in there, like introduce myself. And I met everybody. And it just kind of like started from there. I met you a little bit later on, going to BSU meetings, talking at, places here and there. And I was like, okay, like I'm finally kind of like building my community here after kind of like putting it off, right? Which looking back, I really do regret because I was like, school is important, but, school is only so much of school. Again, that's corny, but you also are here to like find yourself and find your people.
Oh, absolutely. It's a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, and what that means for you.
Yeah. No, and that's like a lot of people that ask me, because me have graduated 3 months ago now, and I was just telling you, man, like before the podcast, like it still feels like I should be registering for classes and taking classes right now. So that full of being away from school hasn't set in yet, but it's a balance. Anyone asks me, advice for college, it's that balance of being able to say, okay, you're there for your academics. You can't forget that. And so many people that went and graduated from Western say that. You're there for your academics. Don't lose sight of that. But then the second thing is to also branch out and form those connections that you may not be in touch with all your friends from college 20, 30 years down the line, but at least maybe one or two of them or a few of them or a handful of them, you could form lifelong friendships.
Yeah. Because, like, just like with... like with anything you do, right? Like you go into like your work environment, which, you and I were talking about this a couple months ago, where it's like, I just kind of hope like I get into a situation where, things are great. And I'll also touch on that later, if there's time. But like I came here and I was like, I know the type of people I want to be around, which is people who keep school first and understand that that's also my mission, right? Like I don't drink, I don't smoke. Those, these are not things that I like try to like, kind of like put out there when I first meet people. I don't want to be that guy where it's like, I'm high off life. Like no one gives a shit. Number one, right. And number two, like, even when I tell people this, it's just like almost all the people that I've now become really close friends with, I'm very thankful they understand it. I've never been ostracized for it. It's like, you don't smoke, bro? That's cool. You don't drink? That's cool. Like, because and even them, for those people that do that, right? Because this is college, right? But they also are all on that same wavelength. And I'm happy that like I haven't had any like issues or anything with people. I haven't had any conflict of interest per se. I'm very thankful that there hasn't been a point where I've had to like where my morals and another person's morals and the pursuit of like our education has come to a point where it's like, okay, I have to legitimately cut you out because our goals don't align anymore. Yeah. Very thankful that has not happened.
That's good.
Yeah.
Man, let's actually, I want to talk a little bit more about you don't drink, you don't smoke. I think that's a badge of honor. I think that's something that's like,
no.
that is, I mean,
No.
you're doing it in college. I mean, like, I for example, like, you know, I think what I've seen a lot from my freshman year going forward is people come to college and they feel that
The pressure.
the pressure, the peer pressure there. Either they've done it before in the past from high school and they're continuing it, or some people, they're like, you know what, there's that peer pressure. Let me try drinking. Let me try smoking. The fact that you don't do that and you've surrounded yourself with friends that don't pressure you any more than you need to, how I guess, first of all, how are you able to do that? And for those listening that maybe don't drink and don't smoke, that are heading in their freshman year or a new community, and they're like, I want to find friends that get me and that won't pressure me.
So to kind of like answer like how I kind of like found them and how I navigate my friendship with them. Like, again, like people who smoke, drink, party, all that stuff in any college town, they're there. Number one, if you're gonna be friends with these people, again, you got to understand that, like, yeah, this is a big part of like what they do recreationally on the weekends, and
Right.
you know, you got to use your judgment, right, to know, okay, like, is this a person that goes overboard with it on the weekends, right? Is this dipping into the week, dipping so much into the week that they don't even function at school? Okay, those are not people you need to surround yourself with, right? I'm friends with people where this is stuff they do on the weekend, right? Like we're seniors now. Like, you've learned your limit, right? And even when I initially came here, I was around people again that knew I'm not having more than like X amount of drinks, or I'm gonna be calm tonight and just kind of relax.
Right.
And for like a lot of young people, like, again, like discernment, like almost any other like soft skill is a skill, right? So at 18, right, number one, your frontal lobe is nowhere near as developed as it can be.
Right.
So you're still balancing, like, is this a good decision? Is this a bad decision? You're operating off of extremes far more than like your older peers would, and you're not able to understand, what a good choice from a bad choice to the best choice for you is, right? What the best choice for another person is, because a lot of these things come in conflict with each other. If you're like me and you're coming in, you're like, I don't really drink, I don't really smoke. I'd say, like, again, like with most things in life, you want to be great at just anything you do, right? Let's say you want to be a good piano player. You got to surround yourself around people who encourage great habits, right? And if you view not drinking and not smoking as a great habit, like, you do, or I do, and like a lot of other people do, that starts with surround yourself around what you are, right? If you have good habits and you're constantly encouraging people to do right, find people who do the same thing. And it's not going to be a problem even if you do have those friends that do drink and smoke. If anything, they're going to say, when did you start drinking and smoking, bro? If anything, bro, you need to chill. It might not even, you probably don't even need to have that, right? Because there's been times where, like, I'll be out and like somebody passes me like a drink, and I do this like as a joke. Like, if you've hung out with me, I do this, where it's like I take the drink and I'm like, and they're like, they take it back. They're like, bro, you don't even drink, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, you think you're funny, bro? And it's like, it happens like now every like blue moon, because like, it's like
make that face that
yeah, it's like my little like thing now, right? So
I got you.
But yeah, like, it's cool that they recognize that and they just encourage me to be more of who I am. Because again, especially when you're 18, and even now, at our age, right? It's like we're not totally who we are yet, right? We're not totally set in who we want to be, who we know we can be, who we want to be, all these things. And at 18, you just got to surround yourself around people like that will remind you, like, hey, bro, like, you're not that, right? Don't go off the deep end. You're not that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Black excellence. When you hear that word, what comes to mind?
Black excellence to me, I keep saying this, but it is community, and it is your community reminding you what it is you need to do and you need to be. For me, black excellence is that I look at my mom, and she came here in the 90s, with my family, but there wasn't a lot of support. Comes to Seattle, same thing, not a lot of support. You know, she has me, a baby. She has to kind of figure this out. And even when I'm saying this again, like, I don't want to conflate, maybe I'm not saying this, you know, I'm not articulating this well, but I don't want Black struggle to kind of like overshadow like excellence, in the sense that, like, yes, like we as a people have gone through a lot of things, and we've come up and risen up.
Right.
But that's not the entire story.
Right.
That's not the entirety of my mom's story.
Yeah.
Right? This was a lady that was going to be a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
You know, even if I didn't exist, she'd be a lawyer. She'd be a lawyer here. Things changed, and she raised me, and she's doing great things now. Yeah, that's Black excellence. But at the same time, like, I want to be able to then provide, whether it be for my nieces and my nephews, and, you know, whenever my brother has kids, and my niece, my sister just had a daughter recently. Like, Black excellence for me is making sure they don't have to go through what my mom went through, right? Or what my aunts went through,
Right.
or what everyone else went through. It's ending toxic cycles, bad cycles,
Sure.
right? It's constant evolution. That's what it is for me,
Yeah.
right? It's an evolution from what was before, you know? Yeah.
That is some wisdom you just dropped here. I mean, the first part that you said, and I completely agree with this, because I do feel like when we hear black excellence, to me is similar to that. But you were saying pretty much the celebratory aspect. That phase is not there. It's always just the struggle phase, which is important, but there's no celebratory of Black excellence, which is part of the Black culture and what we bring, and the food and the community and everything else, you know, as does other communities.
Yeah.
But I do think we can celebrate more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There is this book called Black Ivy. The name of the author escapes me, unfortunately, but it's basically this book, kind of like a coffee table book, I believe, about essentially like how Black style has evolved in America, and how you can even kind of see traces of what the kind of like genre of like how people dress of Black Ivy in today.
Yeah.
And it's these photos of, you know, all these like great musicians, these great artists, these talented Black people, even, you know, politicians, freedom fighters, etc. And I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that's Black excellence, man. Like, to kind of like create this thing, this style of fashion, and it's so well represented in all these different cultures and subcultures, and how it has, you know, to some degree a uniform meaning. But if you were to ask, you know, you ask Muhammad Ali, like, you know, what's this style for you?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot different than like Miles Davis, which is like one of the people I look up to in terms of like how he approaches like working hard and working on your craft, right? Like, they approach the same thing completely different, and that's great. We create so much,
Right.
and yet and it's not that we don't celebrate it. That's another thing that I really want to touch on. I see a lot of, again, social media is only a microcosm of what the real world is, right? Right. It's a very hyperbolic lens into like how humans think, a lot of times very unfiltered, and a lot of times very disingenuous, right? So you have people say things like, how come we don't have, like, as Black people, right? How come we don't have this show? And you got to like forgive, I don't want to use the word ignorance, but not knowing of, right, of the thing they're talking about, like, oh, we don't have a lot of shows like this. And it's like, for a lot of people who are educated, right, you might feel the need to be pretentious about it and be like, well, it actually exists. You weren't old enough. You don't research enough. No, we should change our approach from being pretentious to, well, it does exist. It just didn't have the best promotion. And if it did come before your time, you know, hey, as an older person, I should probably do a better job of celebrating this, right? And going deeper into that, it's like, yeah, like there's a lot of things about Black culture that a lot of people who've been on this earth longer than you and I might not know about, that they haven't celebrated.
Oh yeah.
Right? So when we have these conversations around like what we don't have, right? Number one, that's a question we should always be asking, like, yeah, like, why don't we have it? Why don't we have more? But also, like, if for what we did, for what it was, or if we did have it, like, why isn't this at the forefront, or why isn't that the center?
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to be disingenuous. There are people doing the work to put a lot of our history out there, right? And they gotta get their voices amplified, right? I think about like a movie like Baps, right? Baps is a movie about these like two Black women. My mom watched it. I don't remember a lot of it, but they have these really cool like hairstyles, right? And I got nieces, right? And they're coming up. They're young ladies, right? What's important for any young person, right? Seeing yourself, right? When they get to the age where they're like, I want to see like more movies led by Black women, right? I don't want people on the internet, right, being like, y'all don't know about this, y'all young, y'all don't know nothing, like y'all don't. No, I don't want that. I want people to be more fostering to them and the community that they're also trying to like be a part of, right? Like Baps is this movie that's starring Black women, right? Just living their lives, right? It's a really cool movie. And I think about today and I'm like, okay, like what are some things led by Black women? You have like things like Abbott Elementary, Insecure, that ended a couple years ago, and I'm like, this is dope that they can grow up and see stuff like this, and they don't have to kind of like, do the kind of like digging through the crates of like of like media that represents them, because when we have to do that, it just speaks to the larger problem of like what's stopping us from being able to do it, right? Because there's probably a little Black boy, a little Black girl somewhere in this country that's like, I want to be a director.
Sure.
And there's the factors that will stop them, right? Because
what are those factors?
Those factors are, right, and I'm sure you know this. A lot of older people know this. Again, I keep saying this, as corny as it sounds, right? Like, the man, bro. Like, I want to be, if you want to be a dentist, right, there's a lot of the factors that get slapped onto you, or get slapped in the way of you, that you're going to have to jump over, hurdle, dig under, right, because you're Black, right?
No.
And for those little kids that want to grow up and do a lot of these things and promote more of our rich history and future, right? Unfortunately, them being Black plays a large part of it, right? Right? It's a lot of these. It's a lot of like, who do you know, right? Are you do you go to this school, or were you in this frat? And even with those, all these steps that get to that point that like our white counterparts have to kind of go through, right? There's added hurdles just to get to there, right? It's like, okay, I want to be an engineer. If I get into this frat, my frat brother's dad owns a firm that I want to work at because they do cool things, right? If you, again, and it's like, if just kind of being general, right? Because not every white person's rich, but okay, I'm a white dude, I want to get into that frat. Okay, cool. Does my family have enough money to pay my dues? No. Okay, but I'll take on those loans. All right, I get into the frat. Depending on where the school is, right? Most likely, unfortunately, it could be a PWI, right? It does kind of suck that like we don't have more HBCUs, but generally, it might be a PWI.
That's a whole other thing. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? It might be PWI. Okay, that white dude gets in. He's not worrying about like, do these guys get me?
Right.
Respect me. Right. Understand what it means to be me. Right. No.
Right.
Okay. That hurdle's not there.
Right.
Okay. The guy graduates. He's in that engineering firm. He's not having to play the same like social politics that you or I got to play through, even when, at school, being a prospective employee at a business or whatever, right? For that black student, it's like it's just getting to the school sometimes, right? Got to work twice as hard to get half as much, right?
Now, I do want to touch on that because the thing is that reality slaps you in the face, and,
Oh, yeah.
and all those horrors are real and true, and I felt it, and you felt it, and you've gone through it. We both have. Let's say 20 years down the line, you have a son, and he's
In this
about...
economy?
Yeah,
Oof.
I know.
Oof.
Expensive, right? You ever seen those Instagrams where it's like Gen Zers building their house and
The guy's like,
it's
I
just-
got
it's just
Pokemon
empty.
cards or something. I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, yeah.
But anyway, that saying of, would you tell your son, like, saying, hey, you got to work 3 times as hard as this white man to get to where he is? I feel like that, while there is some truth to that, I don't know if I would want to say that to my kid, because it almost feels like that mindset might do more harm than good, because then they're like coming at it with like a mindset of, oh my God, now I have to be extraordinary, versus just saying, hey, try your very best, and you may encounter some things, but continue anyway. What are your thoughts on that?
That's also kind of like the other aspect of like black excellence that we at times kind of like forget about, right? In the pursuit of excellence, you got to sacrifice things. And when you add into the factor of race, right? Being black, being a black man, being a black man in the pursuit of like moving up the socioeconomic ladder, right? It just adds more layers, right? And yeah, I do agree. Like there is harm in doing that, but I feel like it'd also be just as harmful to like leave out the context of why I'm saying that, right? Not saying that I have not, because again, fall, winter quarter, I was in haggard, dude. I was hurting my eye. I was getting eye strain because I'm just studying so much, looking at the computer, looking at my notes, all these things, and it actually backfired. Like I got good grades, but I didn't get the grades that I wanted, right? And you can beat yourself up about that because you're thinking, okay, like I got a B plus, and like that's good, but that's not good enough for grad school. And in the eyes of the selection committee at this grad school, like me being black, depending on who's on that committee, depending on a lot of other factors, which includes my race, right? Like that could just be that could dock me, that could hurt me. So yeah, man, I agree. Like I don't want to put, if I have a kid, I don't want to put this pressure that like, hey man, if you're not like studying Monday through Sunday, 24/7 from sun up to sundown, I'm not going to operate off extremes. I'm not going to tell them like,
Right.
you won't make it in life, or you're going to be a statistic, or all these like nasty things that, have gotten like put into our heads by like our elders and things like that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But the context of why I would tell them like, you got to work hard because you are who you are and you look like how you look like.
Yeah.
It has to remain.
Yeah. I think, with context, anything is better with context. Absolutely. And that's just like, the sad part is that, they're going to go through their own journey too and figure it out and see it too. And so experience is the best teacher at times, so.
Yeah.
Considering your role, and now that you're a senior at Western, now all the freshmen, all the sophomores, they're all going to be looking at you and you guys, and you guys are kind of the main heads at the school. How can we, and I know you kind of touched this a little bit on this, but how can we as a community continue to elevate the next generation of, black excellence and black students at PWIs? And what would you say is your role, I guess, going into this year to kind of help out the black students that you see at BSU, at ACC, at the BSC space downstairs?
Like with anything, right? Like excellence in anything, standards have to be set, they have to be upheld, and they have to be exceeded. But again, kind of like what you said with your question, right? Like want to push them so much that they break, right? So for me, it's like, if you're coming here at PWI, is like, you worked hard to get here, and that's going to continue. And now it's also just, like you mentioned in the beginning, like finding those people who encourage great habits for you, right? Because like with any group that wants to have excellence among their group, it's all just kind of the same things, right? Like, of course, there's going to be a lot of differences in how that gets accomplished, but yeah, finding people who encourage you, finding people who want you to succeed, and you'll get to where you want to get to. For me, and kind of like my advice for, I guess, kind of just specifically kids, black students coming into Western, is you do not know nearly half as much as you think you know. You, by the time you get to your senior year, you'll probably feel like you only learned a quarter of what you wanted to know, and you'll feel like at times you don't know anything of what you want to know.
Right.
And that's not always a bad thing, right? You know, I said this before the podcast, bro, like a lot of times, like, honestly, there's no masters because everybody keeps being a student. You're always going to be a student. Always. And kind of like my role within like BSU, ACC, like I'm not on any of the boards, but I have a lot of friends on the boards for both clubs. And as someone that spent like a considerable amount of time in the BSC, just wanting to be the person that I was looking for when I came to this school, someone that could like give advice, especially now as a senior, like give like upperclassmen advice, not just for like classes, but like how to navigate being in a town that is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing about Bellingham is that it's between Vancouver and Seattle. So,
it's got beautiful parks that you can catch sunsets in. It's a beautiful city.
And after you get bored of doing that in the first week, you can get in your car and you can go to Vancouver. You can go
to Seattle.
Yeah, but no, seriously, man. No, like, I really want to be able to do that. I take pride in being able to give, not just giving advice and being seen as someone that has information that they don't have, but someone that has information that they don't have that they can internalize and pass on to someone else. Maybe even in a more articulate way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Elijah, man, we are wrapping up the podcast and we are near the end. We are at the end, and this is the point of the podcast where I like to call it, we are in the deep end, where I like to ask the golden question of the night, which is the advice question. Elijah, let's say, as we were saying before the podcast, your nephews, your little cousins, your mom, your parents, your family, your siblings, let's say they're watching this right now, especially to the young ones, and they're on the come up. What advice would you give to them in general? Now, this could be just to them, but also in general. What advice would you give to people that are on the come up, people that are starting their senior year in high school, in college, that have aspirations, have goals, and that just needs something to build off for this year?
I'd say like, number one, like a lot of the best advice, wisdom, or just the smart things to do are more than likely going to come in very like unconventional places from unconventional people. To be honest, man, like you can't discount good advice from people you don't like. Unfortunately, a lot of the best advice that you could get from someone is probably could potentially come from someone you don't like. Right?
Wow.
That's not even like a thing that I'm like, that when I like woke up one day and was like, damn, I gotta get used to the reality of this, that I was like, damn, like my whole life just changed. This is a reality that most people have been living and been trying to instill in me, that I overlooked because I didn't like them. Right? And even then, like with when I said like a lot of the best wisdom, a lot of the best things you could learn coming from unconventional places, like being here at Western, I've been in so many situations in where I learned a very valuable lesson in the most unconventional way. And it's like, it just kind of proves the point of like, life's not linear. How you learn is not linear. I will say, like, getting personal, like one lesson I learned was like regarding like friendships, right? Is that you are gonna have to learn, whether it be over the course of time, whether it be immediately after meeting them, that you gotta trust your gut, right? That discretion that at one point you didn't have, that you've built up to having now, you gotta trust. Right? There's just so many lessons that you don't want to have to learn more than once.
Yeah.
Right? And not trusting your discretion that you trust within yourself, because you get to a certain point where you're in your early to mid 20s, you got to be able to discern things, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Get to a point where you can trust yourself and your intuition, and there's lessons you won't even have to learn. You'll see somebody else learn it, and you'll see somebody else go through it, and maybe that'll be like your wake-up call.
Oh, man. Dude, that was good. That was good, Elijah. Elijah, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. Before I close out with my outro, is there any last-minute shout-outs, any clubs, anything that you're working on, anything that you want to throw out to the audience?
Yeah, so I want to first and foremost give a big shout-out to ACC. Shout out Nick, shout out EJ. I want to send a very big shout out to my cousin Ariam. She's not in Bellingham right now, but that's my guy. I joke with that dude. Man, look, that's it's like that one meme. It's like that's my favorite op. Like, what I'm saying. But yeah, I love that kid. That's my guy. You could follow me on Instagram, Semakula, SEMUCOOLAH. I'm not as like profound as I guess I am here. It's mostly me on Instagram, just kind of like screaming at my TV when I'm watching like Barcelona. Yeah. But yeah, man. I'd also want to say like something that I'm trying to like do more when I get back into Seattle, maybe like after I graduate, is because like if for people who do follow me on Instagram, I do go to a lot of like Middle Eastern shops, eating a lot of Middle Eastern food, as a way to give back to the community. That this is food I've been eating my entire life, right. Giving back to the community, whether it be from Palestinians, people that are Lebanese, sure. Kuwait, et cetera, and now coming here, like there's not that many. But when I get back, I would love to like interview them on, just do more to kind of like humanize the people that have been feeding me and become big parts of my life, in light of the events of, what's going on in Palestine, Free Palestine, and what's going on in Lebanon. May peace be upon Lebanon. And, just want to do more to unite our communities and our people. So, yeah.
Word. What a way to close.
Yeah,
thank you, Elijah, man. Thank you. And I hope you guys enjoyed that awesome episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning in and getting to this far. For those of y'all who got to this far, shout out to y'all. Y'all get the best of it. But stay tuned for more awesome episodes, y'all, as Season 5 rolls on. And if you're able to, please do consider donating. I'll have all the links down below. And make sure to, for those of you who are Western, make sure to check out ACC, BSU, all these places. Plus, anyone that wants to join these places, where can they find them on campus?
All right, so if you're looking for Black solidarity, these clubs and everything like that, you can come to the ESC. I believe ACC has their meetings on, if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm not a part of these clubs. I hope my homies don't come at me and be like, hey, bro, you ain't say the right time, man. Hey,
I'll make sure to plug their Instagrams in the description.
But yeah, ACC, BSU. Yeah. BSU has their meetings bi-weekly on Thursdays, I believe. ACC has their meetings bi-weekly on Tuesdays. You can find the BSC on the 4th floor of the VU.
Fifth
Floor.
Fifth floor.
Fifth floor. So, hey, they're gonna come for me now.
No,
but,
no, no.
But no.
I got you. I'm here as backup.
But you can find them there.
Yeah.
He's gonna plug their socials.
Yeah.
Again, man, for any young black student at Western, man, seriously, don't feel afraid to come through. Don't feel afraid to show face and meet people. We were just like you at one point, looking for a community, not sure what that would look like in a place where there's only 2% of us there.
Sure.
So just come out, and as always, thank you to Ermius. Number 3 is a lucky number. So we know we're here now.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Elijah. Y'all heard it. Get in the community, stay tuned, stay engaged, love each other, support each other any way you can. And for all of you guys who are students, good luck. Till next time, guys. Peace. What is up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in to that episode. Make sure to click the subscribe, follow button, as well as the bell to get notified on all my new content that is coming out every Wednesday and every other day. And make sure to click that link in the description down below to get access to all my socials and any other platforms that I have my podcast on. And until next time, y'all, peace.